it looks like a college lecture, but trust me, it's not. So yeah, no, drones is something that I'm kind of passionate about and something that I want to do in college and in my career, and I just wanted to share a little bit of that. So yeah, next slide, please. So I just want to cover the basics right now. So a drone is essentially an unmanned aircraft which is capable of flight, and there are many types of drones taking the form of a quadcopter with 4 motors, a hexacopter with 6, and an octocopter with 8. They can essentially be programmed to do many different things, and adding sensors to them allows them to get data and input from the environment around them to do certain things, making them even smarter. So the first drone was invented in the Royal Air Force in 1935. It was called the de Havilland DH.82B. I copy-pasted the name. So it was a low-cost radio-controlled drone to simulate enemy aircraft in their target practices, and this would essentially help them during I think probably World War II. That was probably the nearest war. So, but ever since then, there have been actually many advancements in drone technology, electronics, and materials. So, as you can see in the left, that's the de Havilland drone, and to the right, that's the new DJI's FPV drone, which is a much more advanced and technologically advanced drone. Nowadays, drones can be used for increasingly laborious tasks and even first-person flight, as you can see. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to talk about the parts of a drone, the anatomy of it. Next slide, please. Okay, so in this picture, I'm going to go through each of the components one by one, just really quickly. So the frame is basically the gigantic support. That's where everything goes. The propellers help to lift the drone up. The engines is what the engines or motors is what make the propellers turn. The ESC is called an electronic speed controller. That just controls how fast the engines, the motors move. The PDB is called a power distribution board. It's basically it's hooked up to the battery, and that just distributes power to each of the 4 motors. Then we have the flight controller. That's your computer. That's what manages all your mathematics and all the stuff of a drone. Your batteries, your power source, your transmitter and receiver are meant for. Your transmitter is meant for the controller. That's the receiver is hooked up to the drone, and the transmitter is hooked up to the controller. That way you can control the drone manually. Next slide, please. And then this is how everything essentially goes on. So, and this is an example of an FPV drone. So the FPV camera's in the front, the antenna's in the back, the 4 propellers, and the motors. Each of the motors is hooked up to the speed controllers, and all the speed controllers are hooked up to the power distribution board. And the flight controller tells how much power to distribute. Next slide, please. So I just want to talk a little bit about how drones are used right now. So drones are used in many major industries, including urban planning, forestry, agriculture, FPV racing, hobby and professional, and the military. Because since they're unmanned, they can essentially do a lot of tasks without endangering any lives. And I'll just give you all a second to read all of that stuff. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so advancements in drone technology. So it's still advancing even today. Today's light and powerful flight computers, drones can make decisions on their own with AI algorithms encoded into their flight computers, which can allow them to lift more weight and essentially navigate their environment by themselves without any human involvement. Next slide, please. So this is just one slide, programming a drone. So in all programming cases, you have to target something called a flight computer, which is essentially a computer that acts like an artificial pilot. And the 3 bullet points are examples of flight computer that you can actually use in a drone. And then from there, you can program AI algorithms, which can be programmed into these flight computers. And with the connection to the flight controller, you can make a drone that's capable of doing marvelous things. Next slide, please. Thank you so much for listening.